All right, so daily break and run for today. Now I'm starting this one a little bit further down the line, and I want to provide you some background for this break and run. The um, the background for this is there was a post on Facebook by a semi-pro player asking, uh, what people thought about nine ball being a slop game versus a call pocket game. And several, both pros and semi-pros, current ones, responded that they liked call shot best, and that they would prefer everything was call shot and there was no slop in the game. Now today, in this break and run, I'm going to explain why it is that I disagree with that. Um, I do believe that call shot has its place. I don't think every game should be slop. Uh, but having nine ball as a game where you can fluke in a ball, even the nine ball to win the game, uh, I think that there's a place for that game, and it has to do a lot with television. So for those that don't know the background of it, um, pool used to be on ESPN and Fox Sports. Um, both not just the WPBA, who I think is still occasionally shown on ESPN, um, but also men's professional billiards was on ESPN. And a problem came in where the ESPN executives decided that they could not explain to the layperson, the non-pool player, why it was that a professional player could be in the finals of a professional match, a championship match, and lose the match without ever getting out of their seat. And so out of that was born the alternating break format, which guaranteed that both players would play the game. Now I'm not a fan of that. I think if somebody runs out on me, and they put together a 10, 13, an 11, a 13, a 15, a 17 game pack to beat me without me getting out of my seat, more power to them. They earned it. Uh, you know, I've mentioned before, I played Earl in the UPA inaugural event. I ran a nine pack on Earl. If I'd gotten two more racks, he never would have gotten to the table. Uh, and then when he did get to the table, in his 11 rack streak to win the match, I only shot three times. And you know what? I'm not bitter about that at all. He earned it. Um, Coming from behind like that, being down nine racks, walking at nine racks in a race to 11, and having the fortitude to step up and respond in kind and win, that's a big deal. Um, Now I get the whole part about not being able to explain it to the fans. Anyhow, um, I am in disagreement with that, and I'm going to show you why in this break and run. All right, so here we go. We're going to get started here. Decent break, two balls go in. The five is a problem. It goes in the bottom left corner with a perfect leave, uh, but but that's the only pocket it's really got. The seven's taking everything away from it. So my plan here is to get an angle on the three and break out the 5-7. Now, when you break out two balls that are together like that, what you typically would want to do is to hit the ball you're not on, in this case the 7 ball full, move it out of the way, and leave yourself a shot on the ball that you are on. However, that's extremely risky in this case because the 7 is below the 5. So I'm going to run into the 5. The idea here is to run into it with enough power so that if I do clip the 7, I'll still have a shot. And if not, I end up with a shot on the 5. Well, As it turns out, I have no shot on the 5, and I'm going to stop it here because this is the shot I want to talk about. Okay, so if this was a call shot game, there is exactly one shot that you could play here, uh, and that is to play with top inside English down here so that the ball comes shallow, hits the 5 ball hits the rail and bounces out. Kind of critical that you don't hit the 8 there, and that right hand spin is going to hold the cue ball so that after the hit it comes flat off this rail and comes up behind the 8, hopefully. Okay, that is your only shot in the event that this is a call pocket game. There's just nowhere to hide. Um, yeah, I guess you could also try to come behind the ball and kick it out this way into this rail and have the cue ball just kind of drift this way. But both of those are very similar shots, okay? And you do run a risk with that second version. So you the risk is that you could end up um, so this 5 ball, the rail is actually forming a ghost ball with it. Okay, if you hit the spot right there that I just marked, I'll put a little X there for you so you can see it. Um, if you happen to hit right in the pocket where you're simultaneously hitting the rail and the 5, that 5 ball goes in the top corner. Okay, so if you're playing that safety and you happen to hit in that pocket, that rail acting as a ghost ball makes that 5 very likely to go into that pocket. I'm challenged with the idea of call shot in this case because there are so many options if you try to make it. So let's say you have a ball down here by the rail, okay? And you have a straight in shot, your cue ball's here, that second X, that's straight into the corner, okay? And you have a ball up here at the top of the table. Well, your choices are to draw back and try to spin down to the other end of the table and get your leave, or you can go off the rail and hit the ball to cut it in, and then the cue ball goes straight up the table with a shot all the way. So the second option is the one you'll see higher level players play. Playing off the rail on the short hop to the ball is usually a better shot than trying to power draw. It's much easier to control. Now, let's say I have a blocking ball and the cue ball's where it is right now. So in this case, I simply add a rail and it becomes a 2 rail kick in and the cue ball still goes up. This is a shot you see very common. It's better to hit this the 2 rails than it is the 1. Well, this 5 ball, looking at that angle that we had, and you're going to see me look at it here momentarily. Looking at this angle that we had with that ghost ball going to the end, um, it makes trying to make this a basically a 4-way shot. Okay, so if I hit it in that pocket, if I hit it, if I get the cue ball to go directly in that pocket with running English, the the cue ball kicks out for a shot on the 7. I can also, and to do that, I just have to get in that little pocket right there. Okay. Well, I can also try to do the same 2 rail shot I just drew out, uh, except going down the long rail instead of the short rail. Now, a lot trickier to do that, but a lot of good things can happen. Okay. A lot of good things can happen. So I've got to get to the 7. If I hit that solid, I end up, if I hit it solid trying to kick it into the corner, I'm going to end up with no shot on the 7. You just saw where I had the X's marked on that. Is to play that 2-rail kick to send the 5 down the rail. And to do that, I'm using the parallel lines thing. So you see that I'm going to send the 5 down there, and when I do, I'm going to get that same motion we just saw where the cue ball comes off of it and goes straight across the table. Now, if I hit in the pocket, which is only, it's like a quarter of an inch difference between the two. If I hit it in the pocket, it goes down into the corner. If I hit it a little off, it goes down in the corner, and the spin spins it behind the 8, like you just saw me diagram. If for some reason I come too far out across the face of the 5 ball rolls behind the 5 along that same line that I just had. And let me back this up one more. Okay, so if I come across the face of the 5 ball comes off the rail and behind the 8, and the cue ball runs up the table. That's not a great drawing of it, but because my angles are wrong. But if I thin hit the 5 on the face of it, it goes behind the 8. Well, that's option number 4. So there are a lot of good things that can happen, but I can only try them because this is a call shot or not a call shot game. If it was a call shot game, I can't try any of these except for the safety. And frankly, that makes watching pool um, kind of like watching paint dry. And so it doesn't lend itself to bringing in new spectators and new people to support the game. Here, the 2-rail shot, it looks spectacular. But really, I've got like 5 different things that can or 4 different things that can happen here that are all going to look good. So even though this looks like a fluke, it's not. This is actually, I make the exact shot, the exact one of the 4 things that I'm trying for actually goes in. But even if it didn't, there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to come up with a shot anyhow. So here's the shot. Send it down the rail, cue ball goes straight across, and I end up with my shot on the 7. Now, a shot like that in professional play, spectators are going crazy. Um, Nobody's calling that a fluke. And it wasn't a fluke. That was actually the shot I was shooting, but I could only afford to take that shot because flukes count. Okay, so stop the ball on the 8 and straight in shot on the 9. Pretty straightforward. All right, and on to the next rack. So that's kind of my explanation on why I do like call shot games. And I actually think that call shot games uh, are not I'm sorry, why I like non-call shot games and why I think non-call shot games have a place in pool. Um, all right, so here I get kind of hung up in the corner pocket. I've got a thin cut on the 1. First thing I need to do is figure out if I'm going to hit the 2 and the 6 or not. And if I am, think about how I can avoid them because I don't want to touch them if I don't have to. So it's not going to not going to touch the 6. Um, I think that so at the highest levels, a lot of pool is about knowing your odds, knowing the risk, and knowing what the reward is, and playing appropriately to it. And having a shot like the one that I had in the last rack, um, that shot is all about knowing those odds and taking advantage of them. All right, so here, 2 balls, a fairly straightforward cut. I really wanted to be closer to where the 4 is so I wouldn't have to touch the 6. So I had to figure out where I'm going to come off the rail. Very touchy shot because depending on how much I catch of the 6 is going to, how much I catch of the 6 is going to determine where I end up. I caught it really thin, so I had too much speed. I end up with this combination that I have to make, and combinations are notoriously bad to shoot, especially once you know how bad they are to shoot. And I miss, and game over.